So this week we had to read The Apology by Plato, and despite the title, it's not actually like an apology in the way that we think of it today. It's actually Socrates' defense speech during his trial in Athens, I believe. He was being accused of, corrupting the youth and not believing in the gods that they believed in. Plato actually wrote it as like a historical record of what Socrates said, and honestly, it's kind of, to me, it was hard to follow, but it was very serious but also clever because Socrates wasn't begging for mercy or asking for forgiveness. He literally was almost sarcastic in his apology when he said it because he believed in what he did and he wasn't trying to explain or right or wrong or anything like that. So there were a few important things going on. The main type of questions that the apology um, were discussed were like philosophical and moral issues, but also through a political angle, because Socrates was criticizing the way that the city thinks and operated at the time, and was kind of pointing out, like, hey, you're doing this wrong. Hey, if you didn't do this, we wouldn't be having this issue. Second, Socrates' main argument was that he was innocent, but also he was trying to help the city by encouraging people to think critically and question assumptions that had been made to them or that they had developed over time by listening to other people. His main point that he kept pushing was that the unexamined life is not worth living. That really was the whole core and message of his defense during this trial. And third was about his argument. He argued it not just with evidence, but through logical reasoning and examples. He talks about going around questioning the experts, which were the politicians, poets, craftsmen, and finding that they think they know things, but they actually don't. And so what they thought was true was actually wrong, and he was trying to help them with that. He was trying to get them to understand that realizing their own ignorance was the first step towards actually gaining true wisdom. In it, with the critiques and strengths, like I said, it was kind of hard to follow, but kind of what I think I got out of it was a strength was that Socrates was consistent. He never once wavered through whether he was innocent or not. He believed what he preached, and I've heard this, practice what you preach. He really did practice what he preached. He was facing a death sentence and refused to change. He refused to compromise what he believed was right or try to persuade the jury to, you know, believe what he believed to, quote unquote, save himself. I think a lot of people today can learn from that type of conviction. He also models like resistance. He doesn't shout. He never like raised his voice. He never goes against the people who were holding him. He just calmly keeps asking questions. And in today's political climate, I think that's something they really need to learn from. They need to have people who are willing to challenge the system, but do it thoughtfully and not just angrily listen to me, listen to my beliefs because my way or the highway. But with those, there were some problems that I came across. One thing that stood out is that Socrates claimed to be on a kind of divine mission based on what the oracle said. But that's not really like solid evidence in the way that they were looking for, or what we would believe is solid evidence in today's standard. It's more like, his personal feeling, like, I feel like this is what I was supposed to be doing. So that kind of led to the question of, like, should someone's personal belief in their mission be enough to justify actions? And I feel like that can run the risk of a lot of questions in that, do you believe what you say and can you prove it? Because there is scripture that says, always be ready to give a defense for what you believe, and whether that's biblically or non-biblically, you need to be able to defend it. And he did a good job of defending it, but I don't think he could have defended the question of should your mission, what you believe, be enough to justify what these people are saying. He also said in that he was helping the city by challenging people, but a lot of people, like you can tell, didn't feel like they were being helped. They felt like they were being tricked or pushed to believe something specific. And, it could have been that he was too harsh or he didn't explain things in a way that they could actually understand, because he seemed to be speaking from a very high educated level. Because I felt at times when I was reading it that it was like, I don't even understand this. So it might have been easier if he had brought it down a little bit to what they could understand. I wonder if he was more focused on being right than being effective in his message. And I thought it was kind of weird that he says he knows nothing, but he still kind of acts like he's the only one who knows he knows nothing, if that makes sense. Like, almost like a smug, like, I know where I stand, do you? I think he almost held himself to a higher standard, so to say, than everyone else because he was smarter than them. I think his arguments were strong when it comes to, like, courage and stuff like that, but the divine mission part was kind of what got to me, and it was a little harder to find the evidence or clarity with that, but that might have just been me and not understanding the book in itself. I honestly had the two questions that I had that stuck with me was, is it enough to act on your conscience if society sees you as dangerous or wrong? And by that I mean, like, how do we balance our personal conviction with the social responsibility or expectations? And then two, in a modern context, who are today's Socrates people? Those who challenge the norms and ask the uncomfortable questions, and how should we treat them or respond to them? That's all this week, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the semester.